is Federal Highways Technical Working Group on Pavement Sustainability. With that, please welcome Tom again.
I think as some of you, as Steve was telling you, Heather Dell is the one who has been involved with this for some time. Now, Heather is one in our group. I think she's pretty obviously a millennial, you know, and we've had a lot of discussions over this. And I know I've been accused of being a millennial, but I'll clear that up right now. I'm not a millennial. But some of the things we've talked about, though, is I guess they liked a little bit about my background in the years I was involved in doing a lot of project work, and you know, a lot more recently looking at some of the strategic things and preservation and performance and asset management and a lot of the big picture kind of things. So it sort of fits into this whole concept of what's sustainable and how we move forward with that. It's a little bit different take on what we're doing here, because a lot of what we do here is how-to on it, but it is one of those things that I think is going to affect all of us in one way or another in the near future on this. So just as a little bit of basic part of this gets into that whole thing that we've talked about where you look at the social, the economic, and the environmental issues on that, and where we're going to be going in the future, because a lot of our pavement projects are going to depend on how well we do all three of those things. So to start with, like every good presentation here, we have to start with some acronyms. A couple of these are really kind of important because they're a little bit different names for things that we currently use. You know, for example, this first one here, Environmental Product Declaration. You know, for most of us and who are not millennials, we might call that specifications, you know, and that really is what it gets down to, is that we are talking about things that are essentially specifications in here. So why is this stuff important? I want to try to get you a little bit of an idea of what this whole thing is about with sustainable pavements. You know, you heard John talk about a little bit of it a few minutes ago, and a little bit about what our definition of that is, and a little bit about where this is going, and where we can expect some of this stuff to be in the future on it. Very basic on here, as you know, I've talked vision and mission. This gets me in trouble all the time, you know. But as we get into doing this stuff, this is kind of where Federal Highway's headed on this stuff. We want to try to advance some knowledge and practices and get it into more than just the economic realm on doing that. So I'm going to talk a little more about that. So let's look at this first piece of that, of stakeholder engagement. Who's involved? Okay, well, all of us. We're engineers in here. She's got LCA professionals, non-millennials. We call them economists. Okay, so I mean, you know, you get into the same kind of thing, but notice in here we're talking also about material manufacturers, contractors, you know, a lot of the folks who are sitting right in this room here today, you know, have some involvement in here. Okay, it's not just about being a tree hugger anymore. You know, this is really about some of the things that keep us going on that. Back when I was going to college, the Ice Ages, you know, we called it environmental engineering as well, and it all started out with some of that stuff. And where did we go with it? You know, I remember seeing this very same chart here back, you know, 1970 or so, you know, and so, you know, we're just now getting this around. You know, some folks think it's a brand new thing, so, well, okay, maybe it is, you know, but we're coming forward with some of that. So where are we going with this thing? All right, the initial efforts on this was we really got to benchmark what we know in here. A lot of this stuff got formalized, started coming out around 2010, and so last 5 years, last 10 years actually, they've been working on that. So we did a bunch of work on this stuff. You know, you can get these documents if you have an interest in doing some of that. They're available on the website. You see it on the bottom of the screen there. Let me go next to what were some of the findings here of definitions. Now, the basic definition for this stuff, believe it or not, the United Nations adopted something back in, I think it was 1987. That's how far back it was. You know, that really talked about, when we talk about something being sustainable, what are we talking about? Well, it has to meet those three criteria, what's, keeping our society active, keeping our environment safe, and being economical. Otherwise it's not gonna happen. We're going to have some issues with that. It's been, even after 50 years or so, we're still looking at some of that stuff. And then what are the next things that we're going to try to do? All right, well, we got to do some education on it. There's still some gaps in here. We don't really have very good examples to do. There's a few of them out here, and I'll give you a couple here in just a minute or so, of things that are there. There is some work going on, developing tools. You see a lot of this stuff done on spreadsheets and that kind of thing to actually calculate, well, what is the benefit? And we're not necessarily talking economic benefits, but we're not forgetting economic benefits, because that's got to happen as well on it. And and the point is that out of all this stuff, it's not just being cost effective, but you also have to be effective in the social and the environmental and the performance pieces as well. And so they came up with this little slide, which, believe it or not, our public works people really like. It actually does kind of indicate a little bit about what we're really trying to do, with these programs. So what are they looking at as benefits? Obviously, if we're going to do this environmental issue here, we can't really get to the point where we're not delivering what we need to have. There's some real key reasons for this stuff, and some of you have had some experience with some of that. Materials are running out, in a lot of cases. I know I've been to some states where aggregates are hard to find now. Good aggregates are hard to find. So how do we reuse some of these things? Is it cost effective? Is it environmentally effective to do those things? Can we maintain the society level, keeping our lifestyle, where it is? Some of the history of where this stuff has come. This definition came up here. Well, this is one of the ways they're talking about setting up a specification for what is a life cycle in here. How do you analyze it, over this time frame on it, and so there's some really hard issues that we're working on trying to make this happen there. So what's the history on it? You see this little chart but anyway, you can kind of see some of the history of where it's been and what it's doing. They're trying to get some guidance out there. A lot of these documents are out already. We're ready to go with that. We've worked a lot with asphalt on here. I know we've got some contracts moving right now in the concrete arena as well, and trying to calculate some of this stuff out. Some of the things agencies have done, you can see here's some experience of projects where they have made environment and made social acceptability a couple of the things that had to be met as part of a project, not just making economics part of it. Another really good example, I think, that drives it home here was the adoption of war mix. That came on pretty fast, and I think you find war mix now in every single state in the country. And why did that become so popular? It was partly the environmental issue, but I think a lot of it was that we found out that even though we met all the environmental and social things that it could do, how well did it work? It worked as well as the other stuff, but it was also less expensive to make. So we're not always talking about something that's going to be more expensive because we're doing something for the environment as well. So there's a little bit of a protocol that they've developed on how this is going to all happen, and a little bit of where it is at the end here. We're going to get into policy, we're going to get into specifications. When bids go out, they're going to have these specifications in it. Where it's kind of missing right now is we don't have a lot of data in there. We don't have a lot of folks that know how to use the tools just yet, and to where it's going. So that's some of the elements of it. One of the big problems that we have with it is this whole issue, the specifications, this environmental product declaration. How do you define this? Because if we're really going to sit down and look at trade-offs between one type of project and another, one longer lasting project than another, do we use Do we use preservation? Don't we use preservation? Do we resurface? How often do we do all that? We have to have some way to make some comparisons with that, and that's where this life cycle analysis is coming from. And we're calling out this environmental product declaration. It's going to be a lot like we do life cycle cost analysis, except it involves things that are not necessarily dollars and cents, but rather environmental issues as well. Has to be transparent, obviously, has to be verified, has to involve the folks from industry. It's got to involve a lot of the folks that are the users of the products as well, you know. And so we do have some states that are starting to move this direction already. California has that in some of their specs already. Oregon has it in some of their specs, and I know there's a couple other states that are considering it. I believe Minnesota and Washington are also looking at that piece of it as well. Just a couple things in here. Not everyone is on board yet with this. As you know, it's a policy issue, so that involves an awful lot of decision making that maybe we don't know too well. We have to link this stuff all together. You know, we've got to link this environment with the dollars and cents and with the, you know, assuring that it's going to maintain the lifestyle that we like and that we're currently living with it. And so we have a number of things in there in terms of trying to get these data sets put together, doing some education on it. And so here's some of the program planned activities that are going on. And you'll see Heather's name in working a lot of this stuff out very shortly in it. So this is some of the things Federal Highway's got going. They have a whole process now, and I got told here a couple of weeks ago that I'm now a sustainability ambassador, and I didn't quite know exactly how that happened, but it did. And so so there's a role really for a lot of folks to get involved here, you know. You know, you're going to get asked a lot about these impacts as you get into it. You're going to be asked to do some of the evaluations and the trade-offs, you know, trying to get the quality of this stuff put together and trying to figure out just how are we going to make these trade-offs in the future. Just to finish up, here's the website where there's some information on it, you know. I think we have some contacts available on here. You know, I kind of advised a little bit with this, but, you know, like I said, it's not my program directly, you know, but.
All right, thanks, Tom, for that presentation. And we're on break.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.